Nanami Kento didn't have to die in Shibuya. I know. Here we go, another what-if video. But hear me out, because I've been thinking about this for way too long. And once you actually look at what cursed tools were available in Jujutsu Kaisen, at that exact point in the timeline, Nanami's death starts to feel less like fate and more like the universe specifically going out of its way to ruin our day. So today we're doing something different. We're not ranking tools. We're not listing them. We're picking exactly one cursed tool that would have changed everything in Shibuya, and we're proving it. And by the end, I think you're going to be a little angry, because the tool we land on, it existed. It was real. It was just in the wrong hands at the wrong time. Quick refresher, because we need to be precise about this. Shibuya, October 31st. Nanami's already exhausted. He's been fighting curses non-stop. He's covered in blood. He's running on fumes, and he's just trying to get the civilians out. Then Mahito shows up. And Mahito at this point in the story isn't the same Mahito we met back in Season 1. This is post-evolution Mahito. The guy's domain is sharper, his idol transfiguration is faster, and he's basically been speedrunning enlightenment by killing people for sport. Nanami knows he can't win. He says it himself. He's just trying to buy time for Yuji. And then Mahito touches him. One hand. That's all it takes. Nanami's body gets warped. His soul gets reshaped through idol transfiguration, and the stockbroker we all loved gets reduced to that nightmare version of himself crawling toward Yuji. Now here's where the what-if starts. Because the thing that killed Nanami wasn't Mahito's strength. It wasn't speed. It wasn't even strategy. It was a cursed technique. Specifically, a cursed technique that requires direct contact with the soul, which means there's a very specific category of cursed tool that would have made Mahito's entire ability completely useless. Now, the obvious first guess is Playful Cloud. Big stick, hits hard, Maki was using it earlier in Shibuya, scales with physical strength. Nanami's strong. Nanami likes blunt weapons, it tracks, right? Wrong. And I'll tell you why. Playful Cloud is a power multiplier. It makes you hit harder. The problem is, Mahito doesn't care how hard you hit him. His whole gimmick is that he can reshape his own body the second he sees damage coming. Yuji punched this guy through walls, and Mahito just shrugged it off and rearranged his face. Nanami swinging a bigger stick doesn't solve the equation. It just delays it. Same fight, slightly louder. Okay, what about the black rope? Miguel's anti-cursed technique whip thing. That actually would work against idol transfiguration. The black rope nullifies cursed techniques on contact, so if Nanami got Mahito tied up with it, Mahito's whole ability shuts off, and it's just two guys throwing hands, which Nanami wins 10 times out of 10. But here's the issue. The black rope was already gone. Miguel used it against Gojo during the hidden inventory flashback. And we know from the manga that the rope eats itself every time it's used. By Shibuya, it's either destroyed or in pieces in a vault somewhere in Africa. Nanami's not getting that rope. Nobody is. So we cross that off too. What about Slaughter Demon, the blade Yuji had? Cute idea. It got destroyed in episode 4 of Season 1. Moving on. Mai's revolver? She's not even in Shibuya. And the bullets require her own cursed energy to manifest, so it's useless to anyone else. So we've eliminated almost everything, which leaves us with the one cursed tool that was actually accessible, actually existed at this point in the story, and actually would have shut Mahito down completely. The Inverted Spear of Heaven. Yeah, that one. Here's the thing nobody talks about. The Inverted Spear of Heaven doesn't just bypass cursed techniques, it cancels them. The moment the blade makes contact, the technique stops working. It doesn't matter if it's limitless, doesn't matter if it's idol transfiguration, doesn't matter if it's some made-up thing Gege thought of last Tuesday. The spear turns it off, and Mahito's entire identity is his cursed technique. Take that away from him, and he's a creepy little guy with a stitched face who's never thrown a real punch in his life. Nanami doesn't even need to land a clean hit. He just needs to graze him. One scratch from the inverted spear, and Mahito can't reshape his body anymore. Can't reshape Nanami's body anymore. And suddenly the fight becomes exhausted salaryman versus a guy with the build of a malnourished art student. That's a guaranteed Nanami win. And here's where it gets painful. The Inverted Spear of Heaven existed in Shibuya. It was right there. The Zenin clan had it. Naoya, Ogi, the whole rotten lot of them. They were sitting on a weapon that could have saved one of the most beloved characters in the series, and they were too busy being terrible to lend it to a single grade 1 sorcerer who needed it for one night. I'm not even mad at Mahito anymore. I'm mad at the Zenin. Now, I want to be fair here, because I know the comment section is already typing, but Nanami didn't know how to use a spear. Okay, fair, but Nanami's whole thing is ratio technique, finding the 7-3 weak point and hitting it precisely. A spear is literally the precision weapon. The man who carries a slim blade because he needs control would adapt to a spear faster than almost anyone in the cast. But the spear has no range. Mahito would just dodge. Mahito's not a speed fighter. His advantage is the touch. Nanami doesn't have to chase him, he has to defend. And a spear is a defensive weapon. You hold it out, Mahito has to come into range to use his technique, and the second he does, he gets clipped and his powers turn off. But what about Jogo earlier in the arc? Different fight, different problem. The spear wouldn't have helped against the burns, but Nanami survived Jogo. He didn't survive Mahito. We're solving for the death scene. The one real counter-argument I'll give you is this. Even if Nanami had the spear, he might have given it to Yuji, because that's just who he is. He spent the entire arc trying to hand off responsibility to the kid he was supposed to protect. And maybe that's the most Nanami thing about all of this, that even with the perfect weapon in his hands, he probably would have made sure someone else got to use it, which somehow makes it worse. Here's what I actually want you to take away from this, though. Cursed tools in JJK aren't just weapons, they're the great equalizer. The whole power system of this series is built around the idea that some people are born with overwhelming talent. Gojo, Sukuna, Yuta, and everyone else is just supposed to accept that and die quietly. Cursed tools break that. They let the Tojis and Makis and Nanamis of the world stand on equal ground with monsters. And the fact that Nanami died without one feels like the story making a point. The system failed him. Jujutsu society failed him. The Zenin clan was hoarding the one thing that could have saved him, and nobody was going to do anything about it until Maki literally burned them all to the ground months later. In a weird way, Nanami's death is what makes Maki's revenge arc hit so hard. Because it's not just about her sister, it's about every sorcerer who died because the people in charge wouldn't share what they had. So that's my answer. The inverted spear of heaven. Real weapon, real availability, real counter to the exact technique that killed him. It wouldn't have made him invincible. He still would have been tired, still would have been outnumbered, still would have been in a city full of curses and a sky full of Sukuna, but he would have walked out of that station. I genuinely believe that. But I want to hear what you think. Am I wrong about Playful Cloud? Do you have a tool I didn't consider? Is there a scenario where even the spear doesn't save him? Drop it in the comments because I want to read every single one of them. And I'm probably going to make a follow-up video based on the best takes. If you've made it this far, you're the reason I make these. Subscribe if you want more JJK breakdowns like this one. Catch you in the next one.